Hello, and welcome to Budget Commander. On this channel, we'll discuss Magic the Gathering topics with a focus on playing Commander on a budget. We'll cover things like deck building, top cards, deck techs, and more. Let's get started. Hey friends, today we have a gameplay video for you, Kaalia versus Geth. The Kaalia of the Vast deck, this is the PreCon actually, so all the cards are identical. The goal of the deck is to get Kaalia out, apply a lot of pressure by getting Kaalia to attack and put out even bigger creatures and continue applying pressure. This deck can be really explosive, so we're looking to see if she can get some attack action going on. The Geth Lord of the Vault is a Reanimator strategy, so he's trying to put cards in his opponent's graveyards and then bring those cards back from his opponent's graveyards to the battlefield under his own control. Geth's gonna start us out by playing a swamp, and with nothing. And then he'll cast an Elixir of Immortality, an artifact that allows him to gain some life and shuffle his graveyard into his library. And then we'll see Kaalia play a plains for turn, and pass the turn back to Geth, who plays a swamp for turn, and then cast Sign in Blood, targeting himself, drawing a couple cards and losing a couple life, going down to 38. Passes the turn to Kaalia, who plays a Mountain for turn, and then passes back to Geth, who plays Blighted Fen for turn, a land that allows him to pay 5 and sacrifice it to force an opponent to sacrifice a creature. And then we see Geth play Seer's Lantern, a mana rock that allows him to scry. Passes back to Kaalia, who plays Baron Moor, a tapped black mana source. Passes back to Geth, who untaps and plays Haunted Fengraf for turn. And then for 3, casts Sands of Delirium, which will allow him to pay X, tap it, and force an opponent to mill X cards. With nothing left, passes back to Kaalia, who plays a swamp for turn, and then brings herself out onto the battlefield. Before she passes the turn, Geth is going to cast Hero's Demise to destroy Kaalia, sending her back to the command zone. And then Geth will untap, and for 4 mana, cast Dread Presence, which will allow him to either draw a card and lose a life, or deal 2 damage to a target and gain 2 life whenever he plays a swamp. He will follow that up with a swamp and draw a card and lose a life. Then passes the turn to Kaalia, who plays a swamp for a turn, and then casts Siphon Flesh, forcing Geth to sacrifice his Dread Presence and gaining her a 2/2 zombie token. Passing the turn back to Geth, he'll untap, play a swamp for a turn, and then for 6 mana, bring himself out onto the battlefield. He'll then pass the turn to Kaalia, who will cast Diabolic Tutor, searching a card up from her library and putting it into her hand. At the end of Kaalia's turn, Geth is going to activate his Sands of Delirium, forcing Kaalia to mill a card from the top of her library. Then we see Geth untap, play a swamp for turn. Geth goes to combat, and Kaalia chooses not to block, bringing her life total down to 35 and her commander damage count up to 5. Geth passes the turn back to Kaalia, who untaps, plays a Mountain, and then for 3 casts a Morph creature, putting it out a face up, face down card, and getting a 2/2 colorless card. She'll then attack with her zombie for 2, bringing Geth's life total down to 35. At the end of turn, Geth is going to spend all of his mana to force Kaalia to mill a lot of cards off the top of her library. Then Geth will untap, play a swamp for a turn. Moving to combat, he'll swing for 5, and Kaalia chooses not to block, bringing her life total down to 30 and her commander damage count up to 10. Geth will then pass the turn back to Kaalia, who untaps, and goes straight to combat, swinging both the Morph and the zombie at Geth. Geth can't block, bringing his life total down to 31, And then we see Kaalia bring herself back out onto the battlefield, paying the extra commander tax and passing the turn. However, before the end of Kaalia's turn, Geth activates his own ability, paying a 7 mana to force Kaalia to mill the top 6 cards of her library and bringing out this mana charged dragon, which is a 5/5 flying trampler. And Geth essentially has fire breathing, allowing Geth to pay an extra X to give the creature +X/+O. Geth also will activate the Sands of Delirium, forcing Kaalia to mill a few more cards off of the top of her library before he untaps, and then plays a Swamp for turn. Geth then goes to combat, swinging for 5. Kaalia chooses not to block, bringing her life total down to 25 and her commander count damage up to 15. Geth then passes the turn, and Kaalia plays a Darksteel Ingot, a mana rock that can tap for any color and is indestructible. And then passes the turn. However, before her end step, Geth activates his ability, bringing the Razorjaw Oni from Kaalia's graveyard to his own battlefield and forcing her to mill the top 4 cards of her library. The Razorjaw Oni says black creatures cannot block. Then Geth will activate his ability again, once again taking another 4 CMC creature, this time the Furnace Whelp, a 2/2 flyer with fire breathing. Won't be relevant because Geth can't tap for red mana. And then Geth will untap, play a Swamp for turn, and move to combat, swinging the Mana Charged Dragon and the Razorjaw Oni. Kaalia chooses not to block, bringing her life total down to 16. And then Geth passes the turn to Kaalia, who flips over her morph creature into Akroma Angel of Fury, a 6/6 flying trampler with protection from white and blue, and it also has fire breathing. Kaalia then plays Evolving Wilds for turn, immediately sacrificing it, fetching up a Plains to the battlefield tapped, and attacks with Kaalia as well as her zombie. The activation or the triggered ability of Kaalia goes off, and she puts Dread Cacodemon onto the battlefield tapped, and then Geth decides to block the Kaalia with the Furnace Whelp, so those 2 creatures will trade. And then at the end of turn, Geth activates his ability, putting the Armillary Sphere from Kaalia's graveyard onto his own battlefield, and activates a second time to bring Malfegor from the graveyard to the battlefield. When Malfegor enters, Geth is going to have to discard his hand, and Kaalia is going to have to sacrifice a creature for each card discarded this way. Geth so happens to have 3 cards in his hand, which will force Kaalia to sacrifice all 3 of her creatures. Geth is then going to activate the Sands of Delirium, milling a few more cards off of the top of Kaalia's library, and then untap. Going straight to combat, Geth attacks with all of his creatures, bringing Kaalia's life total to -4, knocking her out of the game. As you guys saw, Siphon Flesh was a great play from Kaalia. She did get to bring in Dread Cacodemon, which was cool. It was unfortunate for Kaalia that she got removed before she got an attack the first time she was out. Siphon Flesh did remove a really great creature off of Geth's battlefield and give her a utility 2/2 zombie that got in for a few damage, so that was cool. Akroma Angel of Fury, while not an all-star in this game, would have been really good in a multiplayer game, as it has pro-white, pro-blue, fire-breathing. It's just a big body, so it's fun to have out. Highlights from Geth's deck: he got quite a few activations and used a lot of Kaalia's own cards to beat her. Dread Presence was a great card, lose a life, draw a card is just a lot of value off of that. And Sands of Delirium got quite a few activations, giving Geth more targets. Standings after match 6 of round 1, we have Geth moving on to the second round. Our next gameplay video will have Riku of Two Reflections versus the Felden of the Third Path. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. Peace. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, you should like the video. You can subscribe by hitting the icon in the top left. YouTube thinks you'll like the video on the top right. Otherwise, you can check out one of the playlists on the bottom. Have a great day.